Hey Marina, welcome to the pod.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. For those who don't know you, if you could tell them a little bit about who you are. I met you in Chicago a few weeks ago and thought you were really cool. I was like, I have to have you on. But for people who don't know you, just like, who are you?
Yeah, it's always such an awkward question to ask
Yeah,
someone.
yeah. Who
Uh,
are you? Tell me about yourself and what do you like? Three
yeah,
less questions.
yeah. So my name is Marina Zaky, born and raised in Seattle, Washington. I had moved to Vancouver almost 5 years ago. I moved because I got married, so my husband's Canadian originally, so it just made more sense that way. Um, yeah, I'm not boring. I feel like I'm not a boring person for the most part, but like I guess I'm a health and wellness freak, so that's something that I'm really passionate about.
You
Uh,
hike a lot.
and I have a dog, and he is my best friend, and we do everything together.
Okay, that's cute. Valentine's Day, is your dog like a part of that, or
Honestly, not to
are
get
are you
too.
like a dog, like a dog's involved in every holiday and birthday and everything?
Yeah, I just think Valentine's Day is a useless holiday altogether. Like, so I don't pay attention to it. Like, we go about our normal life.
Wow, your husband must love that.
I think he thinks it's a trick. Like when I say that, he's like, no, I should still do something just in case, like, she gets upset. And I've never gotten upset. Like he works a lot, and his time, the time that he works is unpredictable. So I'm just so used to like doing things, I guess, by myself. So I don't really care. But I think this Valentine's Day, Martin is working a night shift, so I'm just gonna order wings, and then Waffles and my dog, will probably watch some trashy reality TV and call it a night.
What's your favorite trashy reality TV right now?
Real Housewives series, like it's so like
How
Beverly.
many are there at this point? There's like 10?
No, there has to be more than that.
There's more than 10? Yeesh.
There has to be. I mean, there was a Real Housewives in Vancouver. It was from like 2008 to 2012, and it was a train wreck.
Yeah.
Um,
So you like the trashy ones, but you're not gonna watch like The Bachelor, right?
no, I hate The Bachelor. I think that's
You
really
hate Valentine's Day, you're not gonna like The Bachelor.
no,
Those go hand
exactly.
in hand.
It's too lovey-dovey for
All
my
right,
life.
how did you escape the corporate marketing that all women must love Valentine's Day and demand chocolates and flowers and uh,
Oh,
candlelit dinner?
um, that's a good question. I don't know. I like to eat, so part of Valentine's Day is the whole like chocolate thing, which is fine. But if you notice, chocolate is cheaper the day after Valentine's Day. So I would literally used to go to get chocolate the next day because it was half the price.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily a frugal person, but I
Right, right.
and I was just like, why the hell are people like buying chocolate like up to Valentine's Day? It was stupid. So that
Hmm.
caught me off guard. And then yeah,
Have you ever had chocolates delivered to you? Or bought chocolate delivery to someone? You know, like it's crazy expensive. Flour
it
delivery,
is.
chocolate, they mark it up like it's ridiculous.
So when Martin and I were first dating, I think he wanted to be like really cute and chivalrous, and so he sent chocolate and flowers to my work, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, your husband's so attentive. That's so cute." And then I got really uncomfortable. I was like, "This cannot happen publicly ever again."
Oh
Like
my gosh.
so that's where it kind of ended, the whole public Valentine's Day part. So now like he'll just usually get me like my favorite cupcakes or
Uh-huh.
like my favorite chocolate, but he's not gonna make a big deal of it. He's like, "Hey, here you go." I'm like,
Okay. Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so when you were a kid, I don't know where you grew up. I think you said you grew up in Seattle, but did you guys do all that little everybody bring Valentine's Day cards for everyone in the class and write their name and you all exchange it in a bag, and did you guys grow up doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like the standard elementary school
Yeah.
tradition, and I think my parents even thought it was weird. Like, imagine
Yeah.
Egyptian parents going to school and being like, "This is what you're doing to make friends. Like, you care about this type of stuff," and it was
Yeah.
So my mom would always like love it. She would go to like the store and she made sure that like the girls got certain Valentines and the boys got certain It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
I didn't care. My dad thought it was stupid. So I was like, no one, I didn't have a lot of friends. So it wasn't like it was something that I
Yeah.
cared for.
Yeah. I also like it was I still remember Alberto and Andy. They were the popular guys, so they got like
Mm.
their bags were full on those
Of
Valentine's
course,
days in elementary
of
school,
course.
and you know. But but yeah, society puts a lot of pressure on days like this, right? Um,
It's definitely a
for
marketing scheme for sure.
it
There's
is a
no rhyme
mar-
or reason.
it is a marketing scheme for sure, but do you think that like that's enough of a reason? Like, do you think it's like we shouldn't participate and enjoy it and all of that for that reason? Like, can we like baptize it and make it like a good thing? Like, oh, it's all right. This is a great day to celebrate love and blah blah blah, and let's get into it. But
I could be
or should
wrong.
we reject it? Like, this is
Yeah.
stupid.
Don't get me wrong, because honestly, I don't know all about this, but I heard that Cupid was some sort of like fallen angel in Catholicism.
Mm,
And they were like, "Oh yeah, he loved so much before the fall," and that's where like I don't know if that's completely true. Someone could have been messing with me for sure when they were telling me that story because I was like, "What is the origin of this stupid holiday?" And I wouldn't blame them if they were messing with me because I'm very gullible.
yeah,
So that's kind of where I start to think like there is absolutely no significance. I never had the chance to Google it, and I think I want to Google it now just so I have.
yeah. I swear there's a Saint Valentino in the Catholic Church too. Maybe someone else tricked me too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So I think you never know. Maybe for some people it's like an important holiday, but
yeah,
I think we all kind of get into capitalism in some way, shape, or form. If someone's like, I don't participate, it's like, yes, you do.
yeah, yeah.
Especially if you live in North America, you do to some capacity. It's different for everyone.
What's your message to all the single ladies on for Valentine's Day and guys too? Like,
Oh God, advice to women. Um, I don't think you should have expectations. And men,
just stop there. That was good.
just yeah, I think that's
No, I'm
it. I
kidding.
don't think anyone needs to have expectations of a useless holiday.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it does like magnify the that you're not getting, when your friend, your coworker like you is getting chocolates and flowers delivered to the office, and you're like eating your leftover tuna sandwich at your desk. It kind of hurts.
Do you
What do
think
you
do you think this is how Jews feel when we do Secret Santa in the workplace? Like,
I don't know how Jews
think
feel, but
about
I
it.
feel like
I mean, I don't know. I think it's like there's holidays for every person, and I just
mhm.
like not. And I'm not saying I sit there and like don't participate. I just it's. I don't think it has meaning like some of the other holidays that we care about, like Easter, Christmas, birthdays, Epiphany, like things like that.
Yeah.
For people who are maybe more secular, like or don't really, who like the attention around Valentine's Day, like great, it's good for you. You
Yeah.
know.
Okay, well, on this topic of Valentine's Day and love and all that stuff, there's a message of self-love kind of being pushed in society, right? Self-love, like kind of no matter what, how important that is.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in talking with you about whether that's gone too far, like self-love to an extreme, body positivity to an extreme, beauty standards without any standards. Um, I'll show you a photo. I don't think this encapsulates everything, but it's like, it's part of the conversation on
Mm.
this topic. Let's see here. So this is like just a side by side comparison. Like, oh, look at how we used to advertise like Calvin Klein underwear and stuff is known as like a sexy brand, and so and I don't know what that is.
Yeah. No, I get what you're trying to.
Yeah. And so this juxtaposition kind of shows like how different things are today, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Andrew, I have so many thoughts.
Mhm.
Let's break it down. So I think yes, self-love has become completely extreme, but I think ultimately there's nothing wrong with accepting oneself, but also understanding that you have come from the Father, the Holy Spirit, right? And so it's incredibly important that we understand that who we are as people isn't just who we are. We're not encapsulated in our own self absorbed, bubble. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't hate the way that I look in the mirror, but I'm also not going to sit there and just like glorify the way that I look. I think that's a little odd. Um, I think this is where mainstream feminism or modern feminism has really skyrocketed over the years. And it's convinced that, for a long time, a woman's beauty was just everything, right? If you were
Mhm.
ultra skinny, like in that photo, that 1999 Calvin Klein model, she's super skinny, toned, that was the epitome of what women should look like, what beauty looked like. And so therefore, if you were anything but something like that, you weren't considered beautiful. That is 100% the most demonic way to look at it. And then nowadays, now you have models who are a little bit more plus size, which I don't necessarily think is wrong. It's a healthy shift saying that like you don't need to starve yourself or what have you, but it's now sexualized both bodies. Either way, you're sexualizing someone who's super skinny and you're sexualizing someone who is a little bit curvier. And it's like, why can't we accept both? Right? Instead, you're taking one extreme from one era and an extreme from another era. And so there's no consistency. It's just a trend. So right now, being curvy and vivacious and whatever is in. Who knows what 10 years down the road looks like. So there's all of these marketing efforts to monetize off insecure women.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah. I
different way.
don't see. I don't know if it's a like. Are you saying like it's a just a trend now, and the pendulum might swing back to
I think
standards that we previously held?
I think it's just unfortunate the way that um, body types are seen as like what's in versus what's not instead of just accepting the body type for what it is. Like if
Mhm.
people understand the way bodies actually worked, there are lots of genetics that go into this. So the
Yeah.
1999 Calvin Klein model, who was super skinny, also probably had great genetics to work with as a foundation. So it wasn't hard for her to look the way that she did.
Mhm.
Nowadays, you've got, other issues. You got women who've had multiple issues, and so it creates just genetically bigger babies, genetically bigger humans, right? I don't know like the science to all of that necessarily, but you know people are bigger because they're just bigger. Like we're not the same size we were like 100 years ago, that's for damn sure. You've got Cheetos as a main food group nowadays. It's made it to the food pyramid, so that's another topic entirely. But I guess it's just the way that I see it, the whole modeling around what's acceptable to women's bodies and the way that we dress each body type, it's so unfortunate because you're sending mixed signals, especially to younger women who are struggling with the way that they look and have a hard time accepting the way that they look. When
Yeah.
most of the time it is your genetics, it is your environment. That's primarily the reason. Like coming as a former big girl myself, my parents didn't purchase all organic grass-fed meat either.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, so you can't blame people, but
What I'm seeing is it to me it seems to be following like the trend in art, like modern art.
hmm,
So to me, modern art, and I'm no art historian by any means, but it was kind of a revolution against classical art. And
Interesting. I
In
didn't see.
making this revolution, they went to an extreme and really reduced art. Art started becoming like, Jackson Pollock and Rothko, just like slabbing on colors on canvases and randomness, and this is art, and taping like a banana to a wall and saying this is art. Um, and objectivity kind of went by the wayside. Um, and so I think p- I totally agree with, yeah, let's help people love themselves, accept themselves, and not like have all these insecurities. But if the price or the cost of that is, we're also teaching people that uh, health itself is objective, because health and beauty and how you look, they're kind of intertwined. You can't really separate them, right? And that's what I think is people are trying to do, marketing. I don't know who's pulling the strings on all of this, but if you can get people to disassociate health and beauty, um, then you know what, they'll eat the Cheetos and they'll buy the Calvin Kleins, right? So
I always
I think
wonder
it's a
though.
little deeper than them, because I don't believe Calvin Klein, is trying to, help people feel good. They're just trying to make money.
I
Um,
don't think they
at,
care about what anyone feels good either.
right.
I think what's really fascinating to me is like the question on who they're actually gearing these ads to. Are they to men because men feed into sex and images more than women? Or
Hmm.
is it to insecure women that are wanting to look like the model? I
Yeah.
think you could make the argument that it could be both
Yeah.
because men are intrigued by the brand and could influence their partner on, buying certain items, right? Or
Hmm.
it's women who are desperately looking for a way to feel beautiful and they see an ad like that and believe, oh, wow, the ad just changed my life. Because look, a woman who looks similar to me can look beautiful. And that's like, why did you need an ad to tell you that?
Right.
Like,
Right.
why are
Right.
you basing your entire existence and your confidence on a stupid multi-million-dollar ad for executives that don't know you, don't care where you've come from, and frankly just want what's in your wallet?
Well, how do you get that self-confidence if deep within yourself, I think everyone knows, like, people have those standards within themselves, or else they wouldn't feel self-conscious or whatever. Well, how do you develop those? How do you develop that confidence internally? If you aren't, if you don't look like the supermodel or whatever.
No, I hear you. My whole childhood, I was a big girl. I was not a healthy big girl. I was a bigger girl, and I got bullied everywhere. Just this is for context because I'm going to answer your question, but
Hmm.
for context, like I was bullied at home, I was bullied at school, I was bullied from church people. Like it was constant nagging in my ear. So I never really liked the way that I looked up until um and mind you, I played sports. So I was a big girl that was active. And that was even bizarre for people to understand. Like, how could a bigger person run and jump and do all those things? Like, whoa. It was
Yeah.
hilarious because like back then I was like, I'm not struggling. Like it's harder, but I could swing it. But anyway, um, so the way that I built self-confidence was one, this had to be organic from myself. I wasn't going to get it from a family member, a friend, a priest, anybody. Like, no ad could help me do that. And when I had decided that I wanted to lose weight for myself and not for external factors, there was this process I would tell myself, and I would just force a compliment of myself. Like, I would just like look in the mirror and be like, I look good. I look good. I look good today.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
just had to. I know this is probably the worst advice to give any woman, but I just honestly had to fake it till I made it. But there was a point in time where faking it till I made it actually turned into cockiness, and it was unhealthy confidence because I started getting attention that I'd never had before from my weight loss. And so that just fed into my brain. I'm like, you know what? yeah, I'm not so bad looking. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna work it. And it hurt me in the end because I didn't realize that it was that people were speaking of me so negatively in that sense. So it's like they were speaking poorly about me if I was bigger, and then they were speaking poorly about me when I had lost weight, and I was just like, haters are gonna hate. Like I had that whole attitude. Like it was a whole thing. But now as I've grown into my 20s and going into my 30s, I understand that like my confidence has nothing to do with who I am and everything to do with how I love God and how he sees me. And I think once I understood that piece,
Hmm.
I don't care what people think of me at all, whether what I say, how I do my hair, if I gain a couple pounds or not. Now I'm so free that I know that ultimately when I die, God's not gonna look at me and be like, did you love yourself enough? Like, did you do your best to stay healthy? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other factors that make beauty. I don't think the way that my pants fit have anything to do with it.
Yeah. What was the hardest part going through that kind of transition, um, from big girl to not big girl?
Um, I'll be quite honest with you. I think the hardest part was realizing the people that were always bullying me about how big I was suddenly wanted to be my friend,
Mm.
suddenly liked me a little bit more. Were like, oh yeah, she's not half bad looking. I would want to associate myself with her. Oh, she's getting a lot more attention. I want to be popular or in her circle.
Yeah.
And that was devastating because that's when I started to pull away from those people. And
Mm.
then they thought I was being like selective, like, oh no, you can't be in my circle because I don't like you. It's like, no, I don't like you because you're fake as hell. Like, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And that's something about my personality that has never changed. Like, I can sniff it immediately.
Mhm. And so now I know you have a really healthy relationship with food and you're kind of a big wellness advocate and stuff like that. Do you look around in our community, and by our community, I mean like the Egyptian community, Coptic community, whatever, and see like there's just a lot of problems there?
Yeah, I mean, even till this day, like I'll have like family members will just be like, "Oh, you're not eating as much today. Like here, eat," as if like I'm starving myself. Or and there was a point in time where I was doing that, but because I'm going through healing and things like that, I don't feel the need to do that. So there's the constant looking at my food, making sure I have portions, people
Yeah.
asking me if I'm going for seconds,
Yeah.
or like if you eat too much, they're like, "Oh, you're bloated. You look a little bloated after that," like you can't
Yeah.
win,
Is
but
that candor like something you embrace and like about our community, or is it annoying like that? Like,
um,
I'm sure when as you were losing weight, people were like, "Wow, you're losing so much weight. You look great." And then when you weren't losing weight, like, "حبيبتي,"
oh man, I'll tell you.
مش هتجوزي كده, or I don't know what
I
they
heard
told
that
you.
one. I heard
But
you'll never get married. I had someone one time. I went out with church people and we were at Red Robin, and someone ordered a burger like everybody else. And Red Robin's a gourmet burger place, by the way. It's a chain restaurant in case no
yeah.
one knows what that is. And I'd ordered a burger and someone's just like, "Shouldn't you be ordering a salad?"
Oof.
Yeah, and
Like
I
a
laughed, and because my thing that my grandparents had taught me is never let anyone see your weakness, which is probably in 2023 not the best advice to give.
Yeah, now it's like be super vulnerable
Yeah,
in
it's like,
front of
"Be
everyone.
vulnerable, like, don't you can cry in public," and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You should have
"No."
confronted them on the spot.
Yeah, like, I wasn't gonna confront it, I just would laugh it off or be like, "Haha, aren't you?" Like, I would just be sassy back, and
Yeah.
so it used to hurt me, a lot more when I was younger, but now I'm kinda like sometimes I sympathize with them because I think they're coming from a place
Yeah.
where maybe it's either their insecurity or they've seen how I've overcome a lot, and they just wanna make sure that, like, I'm well. So
Yeah.
I just a lot of times the things that I hear is just one ear out the other.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna hold a grudge, I'm not gonna be upset, I'll just move on.
So this camera view is like cutting out like kind of from chest level and below, but I'm kind of a chunky monkey myself, and I was a chunkier monkey growing up. Um, and it was really only like I feel like I accidentally found out about like how to eat healthy like just on YouTube. Like, you
Oh,
kind of
wow.
stumble across like some guy talking about keto, and that leads you to some like one of these Dr. Berg type guys who like talks about gut health or whatever, and it's like you go on this rabbit hole, and like you like because we're not taught, no one teaches us, like our community I think is not that, or was not, or what, I don't want to generalize, but just health conscious, like understand nutrition and things like that. And
Well, if you've seen a
you don't.
keto study, it's all carbs and starches. There's absolutely no
Exactly.
balance in that.
Although the Mediterranean diet is like actually a really healthy diet, I think our problem is we just eat way too many, like too much, you know?
It's too
Like we
much, and it's
feast and
yeah,
too many times per day. It's like a human doesn't, if unless you're running marathons and stuff, you don't need to eat this much food, man.
yeah, man, I hear you. I agree with you because I think Mediterranean is healthy, but the way that Egyptians eat, it's like because we like Christians at least fast, I think it's 265 days out of the year.
Yeah,
So we'll
like
eat
1% of
healthy.
Christians
Yeah, like yeah.
fast that that
Yeah, so
amount for
the
sure.
fast is like vegetables and legumes and like all these fortified whole foods. And then literally the hour that they can get meat, they just pound it in their face and it's like a meat overload. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how is that healthy?
Forget the hour after. What about the hours and weeks and days before? People like build up to this, like this fast is coming. Let's like
Oh my
go
God.
to wherever. Oh my God, it's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, we do a
Uh,
tradition here in Vancouver, well, where before a big fast, like for Lent especially, but we did it for the Christmas one too. For Lent, the weekend before or like the Friday before, we'll go with everyone. We'll just go get like wings, and it's like 50-cent wings at this one nasty place. But the wings are spot on, and you see guys pounding like I think it's like 3 pounds of wings, like as if they're never gonna see a chicken wing in their life. And it's disgusting. I'm
yeah,
taking a normal portion,
yeah,
and it's hilarious to me. So anyway, so it's definitely become more of a cultural custom
yeah, yeah.
thing to just be together and like binge on things you won't have for 50 days.
But eating itself, and this is something that's not talked about a lot, is a spiritual activity. Like
Yes.
I think the word for altar in Coptic or Greek is tarapesa, which means
Mm,
table. And so our meals, our dinners with family and all of that's an extension of that in a way. And I heard someone talk about this, and that it should be done in like an actual spiritual manner as well, right? Like in prayer, without like we shouldn't be like the way we eat now, even the way we consume food, forget about what we consume. It's like on the go, in the car, at your desk while you're working. There's no sacramental like component to it. Like eating, feeding your body is like it should be like a spiritual thing.
yeah.
But that's completely divorced the way we just take it as like fuel or whatever just to keep me going. And I think our role models, these obese priests, you know, why are they all obese? What is this? Like
They
what
probably
how is
get
this
fed.
possible?
They also probably get fed at Izumas. If you think about it, they're like, how many homes are they going to on a weekly basis? And they like people are just coming out with the best of the best platter. Like the
Uh-huh.
moms are bringing out everything. Like it's like Eid when priests come over. I don't know what it was like in your household, but it was like
Yeah.
my mom got so excited to offer cookies, cake, maybe a little bit of fruit, but no. Oh, and he had to stay for dinner. Like you can't leave. How disrespectful, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like I get it, but
They're not doing 4 or 5 of those a week. I
oh,
mean, maybe they are, I don't know.
I mean they're going to one quite a bit. Like I don't understand what a priest does entirely, but I can almost assume that when they're visiting people, it's a ritual. It like has to happen.
Okay,
But
so you're giving them a pass, Marina?
I might because
As
I
long as
feel
they're
like
serving God and going to people's houses?
they should be the most prime example of how not to eat. I totally get it. But imagine being a priest that, like, tells people no. Like, I feel like that won't be received well unless you have some sort of medical condition. Like, AP has his, like, he has a autoimmune condition, and he literally can't eat 99.9% of the food that exists,
Mhm, mhm.
right? So and people don't really take the time to understand that. So, like, I get that, but for the most part, it's like imagine if you're busy though, and the only thing you can do is go through a McDonald's drive-through on your way to the next Azuma. I don't know.
Yeah,
That might be hard. I don't know. I don't know that I
okay.
like that.
Alright. I'm not gonna I won't, crucify them here on this podcast, but I think if we look at records, photographic evidence, I don't think it was the black cassock that changed things. A lot of them were kind of, on that. Maybe it's a prerequisite, I don't know. Like, you're capable of eating at 4 Azumas per week or something.
That's
Uh,
funny.
okay. Um, so it's weird because we've been talking about how society's kind of trending towards self-love and like
Yeah.
having just loving your body as it is and blah blah blah, but isn't like plastic surgery at an all-time high, like botox, making your lips big,
Yeah.
Brazilian butt lifts or whatever it's called, uh all this stuff is like it's crazy. It's at an all-time high. And if you go to a place like Miami, it's like every girl is like they all had at least one thing done, maybe two, maybe two. So how is it possible that we're operating these two things are happening at the same time? Like one of them's got like that's what makes me believe like the whole love yourself thing is just bogus. Or
Yeah,
maybe
it
it's
sound like
leading to the more plastic surgery because it's not working. I don't know.
yeah, I'm gonna sound like a walking contradiction because I do Botox and I love skincare and I love to go get a facial and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I love myself, but I think sometimes, like, I mean, I struggle with this, and it's the concept of aging. Like, I don't know what it is in my brain. I'm like, oh, like I don't want to wrinkle as badly, you know. I don't know. It's just it's a whole
Yeah.
thing. But when it comes to plastic surgery or fillers, Botox I think is just very minimally invasive. I don't see a whole lot of wrong going on with Botox as much as I do filler. I have seen botched filler so many times. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just walk in downtown Vancouver and I'll see it. One in every four people just doesn't look great with filler. But it does if you're not loving your body in one way, you're not loving it in another, and it becomes this whole thing of like you'll hate to age, you'll hate to sag, you'll hate to gain weight, so you're going to do everything you can in a short amount of time to get to what you want to look like without having to do all the work, instead of just, and maybe I should take my own advice on this, but like maybe to relax and accept that the body is meant to age, that we're not meant to look the same way we did at like 21, and our hair will fall out a little bit or it'll thin out. We're going to get bags under our eyes. And suddenly
Mm-hmm.
that's become not acceptable. Like women in their 40s now look so different than women in their 40s, like when my mom was 40.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now women in their 40s are looking like they're 30 again. And it's like, whoa, it's weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a weird yeah, I think you hit it, like, right on the head. The kind of fear of aging is, like, I feel like I mean, that's always been around, like, in society, immortality, the fear of immortality?
Uh, yeah,
Feel
immortality.
fear of immortality? No. Anyways, fear of dying,
Yeah.
has always been around, and, like, I see these side by sides a lot, which is funny when I scroll on Instagram. It's like, Jennifer Lopez when she's 50, Jennifer Lopez
Oh
when she's
yeah.
20. It's like, how is this healthy for, like, your average person to look at? It's like, yeah, but Jennifer Lopez is like a millionaire, and
Yeah,
I
she
don't
can
know.
afford certain things.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of balance in your life. Like, for me, if I miss like a round of Botox, I'm not like stressing and I have to book it. Like, I gotta go right now. Like, it's not that, to the wire, timely, whatever. It's I've gone 6 months without it. I've gone a whole year without it. And then I'll go every 3 months for like, 2 rounds or 3 rounds, but it's not consistent. So it's like, but if I was going to Botox because I'm like, okay, I have to make sure I don't age. Like I need
Yeah.
to make sure I look 25 forever. Like I used to joke about that, but then I realized even joking about it had a little bit of truth in it because it's like, why am I obsessed with looking 25 forever?
Hmm.
Why would I be obsessed with that? So I think now I've come to the realization that like it's a nice to have, but it's actually an expensive habit. And like I value other things over Botox. So like if I have to miss one round of Botox because I want to go like travel or have like a more expensive meal with Martin, it's like I'd rather do that.
Hmm.
Um, give and take. But like there are women out there, mostly women, men do this too, but mostly women will just start something and then run with it because now
Yeah.
they like the way that they look. They like the attention they're getting from the filler. It's the same thing from like the ads that we
Right.
were talking about earlier.
Yeah, we've been talking primarily about women, but this is like, there's a whole this all exists for men too.
Yeah.
The same issue that we talked about earlier. I feel like there's a psyop going on of like dad bods are really sexy. Everybody wants a dad. Like, yeah, no, I think workout dad bods are are not the ideal. You're about to say something.
I was gonna say like it's like the women thing. It's like back then, like if you had a dad bod, it was considered just a beer belly or a kirsch. And there was
Yeah,
nothing cute about that.
yeah,
It goes on both ends.
yeah. Exactly. It's the same thing. It's like they're like trying to promote like dad bods and like these little guys who are not. I don't want to say names, but Tom Holland. This little 5'4" guy is like supposed to be like the icon for men now, and Pete Davidson, yada yada. It's like these guys are not like these are not the standard for like health and good looks for men, in my opinion. But the
No.
same thing's happening, and then also this a lot of guys are even younger now, like looking into getting hair transplants and
Yeah, I never
coloring and all
understood
that stuff.
that. I never understood that. I mean, I know the concept of a hair transplant, but I don't know. Maybe I don't see a lot of guys balding before the age of 30. I see more Coptic guys who lose hair
Put
at a
us on blast, sheesh.
no, it's like it's stress genetics. Again, it's mostly genetics. I mean, what are you
Yeah,
gonna do about it? It's like kind of like my hair's curly. It's genetics, right? It's
yeah.
just a lot of Egyptian women have curly hair. It's the same thing. I'm not talking down on any guy who's got a receding hairline. It's gonna happen
Yeah.
at some point in your life. But like it's like suddenly the receding hairline is the scariest thing for men because
Yeah.
like again it's like the same thing for women who are insecure about a body part or something when it comes to their body as well. I mean, I do believe it goes both ways, but I feel like men don't maybe show it or don't portray it as much as women do. Women emphasize it a lot more. It's marketed mostly toward women. Like,
Mhm.
it's I do hear men who have their struggles physically, but they're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm successful. I'm smart. I'm funny. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
they're like they run with their other strengths,
Right.
and women have a harder time. And I don't want to generalize, but a lot of women struggle with that piece.
OnlyFans,
Yeah,
thoughts?
it's sex work. I'm sorry. It's gross. I think that is the devil's work 100%. It's like you're selling your feet for 10 grand or however much. Like that's prostitution.
Iggy Azalea has like jumped into the game
Oh,
recently.
I don't know about that. I
Yeah.
believe it, but
They're making crazy money.
I mean,
Why can't a woman just be independent and
And
you
but that's
know?
that's the other part of it. It's like, be independent. You don't need a man. You need to like figure out how to, and not every woman has the luxury of being super well off. I totally get it. Everyone comes from a different background, is dealt with a different hand, and you feel like you've got to take desperate measures in order to put food on the table, whether you support yourself, support your family, you have a child, whatever.
Mhm.
I'm usually in the camp of like, I'm not going to judge you, you know, do it, whatever, if you feel like you absolutely need to. But I think it's prostitution, 1,000%. And I don't care if anyone argues with me on that. It's like you are selling your body on the internet to random men for cash. There is no other explanation for OnlyFans. If that's something that you feel like you need to do in your life, again, totally, that's your life. Do what you feel like you need to do. But the truth of the matter is that's what it is. That's the definition of OnlyFans.
Yeah. Well, do you think OnlyFans could have been a thing like 20 years ago?
Mm, I don't know. I think it could have been, but it would be more hush hush, and it
Yeah.
would be a lot raunchier because they may attract like actual,
Mhm.
prostitutes, or like something just really under the table, disgusting, bad, whatever. But nowadays it's like any woman you see walking on the street could have an OnlyFans. She could look
Right.
so like that's why looks are so deceiving because you never know.
Yeah.
Right?
Do
And
you know anyone personally who's
I
on
know
it?
two people. I know two people, and one of them is Coptic.
Really?
Yeah, I don't judge her. She's
Yeah.
got her own life, and like she's asked me how I feel about it, and I keep it to a minimal, and she understands, but I've never judged her for it. I love
Mhm.
her to death, and we don't talk as much, but she'll usually just reach out and like just ask me for advice or something like that. But um she's such a smart girl. She's super smart.
Mhm.
I just wish she would have believed in herself in a different way. But again, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of this whole generation that's doing OnlyFans now, these young women, and some of them are in their teens. Like, man, I feel bad for them not now, but like 20 years from now, like it's gonna come to a head, I think, like psychologically, like and emotionally, um,
Um,
like the repercussions from it. And what's sadder is that, like, as a society, it's like no one seems to care. Like, no one seems to care that this like whole generation, and I'm not saying like all women are on it. I don't know how many people are users, but it's both ways. Like the user and the consumer and the person posting the content. It's like that whole generation like who's on it, man, in for a reckoning. It's like going to be
yeah,
really bad. I think for them, for their future relationships, for their future kids, like really really bad. And I don't understand why no one's talking about it. The church isn't talking about it. It's seemingly like everyone's just turning a blind eye, like it's some kind of extension of porn. And it is kind of an extension of porn, but it's different in that you're your own producer and you're your own content creator. And I guess in that way you're not being exploited, but I guess voluntary self-exploitation, I guess. But uh I don't know. I just think it's really bad, and I'm disappointed that no one's kind of like calling this out
yeah.
that I know of.
My thing is like I've always thought like be careful what you post in any social media. Like no one is ever safe when it comes
Hmm.
to social media platforms. Like, and I remember back when I was in like middle school or high school, and if someone sent like a half naked pic, in a group text somewhere, like it would just spread like wildfire. Like, oh, so and so spread like a naked photo,
Yeah.
and everyone got it, and it was like frowned upon. Now that's what OnlyFans is. So we glorify the very thing that we used to like, you know, despise.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, like from like a spiritual perspective, God will always love his children, regardless of whatever they do. The sin is equal, whether you do OnlyFans or you commit a murder, like in his eyes, the sin is equal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why my stance with it is like, I don't care what you do with your life. But at the end of the day, there's truth to what you're doing. There's a meaning behind what you're needing to do. God's not going to love you any different, but he'll judge you on whether or not you could have gone a different route.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's accepted so many different types of women into the kingdom, right? Like if he can accept, St. Moses the Black who raped and did all this heinous things into the kingdom, like women are the same way. Like it's not like it's anyone's better than the other, but when it's in the context of OnlyFans in today's day and age, it's harder today to remove yourself from the demonic reigns of seeing what success looks like, body image should look like, and being accepted socially should be like.
Yeah.
There's hardly any God in any of those areas.
Yeah. Well, yeah, perfectly said. And with OnlyFans, yeah, there is no God, because what's happening with that and porn and all of it, it's a rejection of the transcendent. Like
Yeah,
our bodies, which are temples of the Holy Spirit,
absolutely.
should be transcendent things. But in society now, it's like sex is just transactional. Your body's just a piece of meat. So what? Like, who cares if that's your view on it, right? And that's, I think, kind of what's happening now. And in that same vein, that goes right into like the proliferation of like contraceptive use on all forms, right? Because sex is transactional. We're just having fun. All of this is meaningless. There's no transcendence to any of this. What is the church's view on contraceptives?
To be honest, I think I've asked that question to 3 different priests,
Mm-hmm.
and I get a runaround, excuse me. And it's like, I get that it's either not acceptable because it's not God's creation, it's man-made. And I've gotten an answer like, oh, we would never accept it because, there's no such thing as accidents when it comes to children. And I've gotten, it's okay. It doesn't harm anybody. It's at your time and your discretion. That's literally 3 contradicting statements from
Yeah.
3 different priests in
Yeah.
the same region. That's the most
Yeah.
alarming part. No one talks to each other. No one's on the same page. So I've had to formulate unfortunately, my own opinion. Granted, I know there's truth somewhere, but I haven't yet found it, and it hasn't made any sense. I think at the end of the day, if you're choosing to take any sort of birth control, that's fine. If you're using it just to have a lot of sex with a lot of people, which is what birth control was marketed as back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, when it first made its debut, it was just like, my body, my choice, and I can do whatever I want with it, but I'm not going to have kids. It was like that. So I think that definitely transcended into 2023 for sure. But what a lot of women don't understand, and it's not until they hit maybe their 30s, if they've been on birth control in their 20s or even in their teens, is that birth control has adverse effects. I am not a doctor.
You're talking about hormonal birth control pills.
Hormonal. Even if you're on like 10% progesterone, like the lowest dose of progesterone you can have,
Mm-hmm.
it can be super, super harmful depending on the person. Now, my husband's a physician, and we've had this conversation a lot, and I always challenge him on it. He's had patients that go on birth control when they have PCOS or endometriosis, and it has put their issues in complete remission. But I have yet to meet a woman who has not had or has had success on birth control.
What is PCOS and endo blah blah?
Yeah, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's I don't really know it entirely, but it's a hormonal related issue. It affects your thyroid, it affects your weight.
Is that common?
I think nowadays it's common.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't
So,
common
yeah.
like 20 years ago.
Well, so why is it prescribed now? So obviously it's prescribed if like you're going through a period, like you're having sex and you don't want to have a child, right? So obviously there's that reason, but there's also other reasons, right? Like regulating your period. I think it's even prescribed for like acne, right? Like for younger women.
Yeah, so one of my really good friends, she's white, but she had cystic acne for her whole life. Has
Mm,
always been a thing. And she went on birth control for like probably 2 years, and it actually made it worse. When her doctor was like literally pushing it, he was like, you need this. Like, birth control is the only thing that'll work for you. And then she went to go see another doctor who was like, no, take Accutane, which is the lead prescribed drug for acne.
yeah.
That made it a little bit better, but it would give her other unwanted symptoms related to her mental health that she never had before. So she's like, I think I need to stop Accutane because I feel like I need to kill myself, which is not like her. She's a very lively person.
Mm,
And then I kind of told her, because again, I'm health and wellness freak. I was like, what if you just changed your diet to be a hormone forward diet, a hormone balancing diet? I'm not a dietitian, but I actually set her up with a coach that I used to work with, that helped me quite a bit in my healing journey with my autoimmune condition. And hormone balancing through food is actually so effective that a lot of times patients refuse to use it because it's going to take at least 6 to 8 months to
mm,
see your first good cycle of normalcy
mm,
versus taking a drug that'll probably help you within 3 to 4 weeks.
right.
So humans nowadays see that the natural approach through diet and lifestyle changes taking so much longer is not immediate gratification enough, because we live in like a world where we need constant, you know,
Right.
movement, and things need to be done so much quicker. When again, this is God, right? This is where God comes into it, where it's like you have to trust the process into accepting that natural healing is possible.
Mm-hmm.
She saw her cystic acne literally clear. Like, she has just a little bit of scarring in areas where like her acne was deep, but she has not taken any medication in
Yeah.
3 years, and it's all from the coach that she worked with
Yeah.
on food.
I think everyone should have, in addition to their classic Western medicine physician, no offense to Mr. Martin,
All
like a
good. I
like
quite
a like a naturopathic, holistic type of doctor that they consult with and like talk about stuff with before they just like, because you're talking I think you made a comment like women in their 30s and none of them uh, think that their decision to be on hormonal birth control was a good one. But I think I don't know how long are like women usually on this. Like I feel like it starts in their 20s, maybe earlier, and they just stay on it for a long time. Where it's supposed to be for periods, right? Like when I say periods, I mean like periods of time.
no, we're
Uh,
talking about the menstrual cycle.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't know. I think every woman's so different. I think some women resort to removing it once they start to see adverse effects, and that could be different. It could be a few months, a few years. Like for me, it took 3 years until I realized like I had to take it out. So for me, it's like
what are the adverse effects that like are common, or is it
it
also depend?
it's random for everyone, but you know that big list, that piece of paper that comes in your medication when you pick it up from the pharmacy, and it
Yeah.
has like a long list. You should probably read it of all the side effects.
Yeah.
Birth control comes with one of them, like any other drug, Tylenol, whatever. It's the same thing with birth control. But a lot of women don't read that. So when I was stopping it, I was like, okay, I'm going to entertain myself and I'm going to read it. And it was literally in bold: gastrointestinal distress.
Uh-huh.
And I have an autoimmune disease. So I was like, it made my flares worse.
Why
Like,
does
good
it see,
for
that's the
you.
thing, like, why aren't I feel like your doctor should have known that and told you.
But the concern that doctors, at least my doctors had, I can't speak for all doctors. The concern that my doctors had was they were afraid that I would get pregnant while
Mm,
my disease wasn't under control.
got
Because
it,
it's
got it,
more scary for
got it.
pregnancy to occur during active disease. So, and that would be with anybody, right? If you're a woman with PCOS, your chances of pregnancy are
Yeah.
probably a little bit lower, but that it's not zero,
Yeah.
right? So they just assume like just go on birth control just in case.
Yeah.
You know, it has nothing to do with and by the way, you brought up naturopathy earlier. I do want to play devil's advocate. Some naturopaths are cuckoo. I used to work for one as an admin assistant, and homegirl used to like tell people to rub lavender oil on their chest when they had chest pains. So I
Yeah. It's a balance. That's why I said have both. It's a
yeah,
balance. It's a
yeah.
balance. You
Believe
just
it or
people
not,
don't even get that other perspective because they don't know it
for
exists.
sure, because
Yeah.
I think most people don't go to a naturopath because they do think they're a bunch of holistic weirdos that just like rainbows and sniffing flowers. But I believe it or not, I don't have a naturopath. I thought it was going to be more beneficial for me to work with a nutritionist,
Yeah.
and I would rather take that than some naturopath that's pushing their natural pills on me. Like I want to take minimal pills. I don't want to take more pills.
Right, right.
And believe it or not, naturopaths usually get paid for whatever
They're
drug that
supplements
they
though.
push.
Aren't they more? They're
But
supplements, so a little
but
different.
supplement
Yeah.
companies want shelf space in your clinic.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
So
agree. And yeah, if you
there's no
follow
shelf
any.
space in a modern doctor's office, unfortunately. Like it's actually illegal in the United States and Canada for a modern or a medical doctor to receive any sort of payout on a procedure or on a drug from
Mhm.
the drug companies. So that's the difference, but it's not regulated for naturopathy, unfortunately. I hope
Okay.
I'm not wrong about that, but based
Yeah.
on my experience, like it's messed up.
Yeah, I don't know, and if we're just comparing the US and Canada, I don't know if, you guys maybe have access to them more. I don't think most healthcare plans, like, cover that in the States. It's like, that's pay
Yeah,
out of pocket, and that's $500 a visit, like, good luck. But
in British Columbia, it is. I think it's mostly covered. I haven't been to a naturopath up here, but it's more available here for
mhm.
sure. Because I think Canadians are a little bit more health conscious than Americans.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
I mean, not to put it
whoa.
out there, but
A Big Mac every now and then ain't hurt nobody, but
everyone in BC, like there's not as many fast food places as
yeah,
you would think. So
that's sad.
if I want a McDonald's, I actually have to drive to a McDonald's.
Hey, depending on where you live here, you gotta drive too, but,
I guess.
um, okay, so you mentioned one thing, like, personally, there was side effects that you had to look out for. Another one that I read about, and I don't know how common it is actually, but it's somehow it inversely, like, affects a woman's sex drive and lowers the libido,
That's
and,
true.
um but is that something, like, you think women are cognizant of as they're on the pill, or
I don't think they are because I wasn't.
yeah,
And that's also not something that's talked about by the doctor that's prescribing it. They're just like,
right.
"You have this issue. I only care about the issue. I don't care about all the other issues that it may cause. So this is what you're gonna get." Again, like
Mhm.
when you're 21 or 22 and you're on it, you don't really care about what could happen when you're on it. So low libido, like it affects women differently. Like I said, some women don't experience it at all. I had it, but it wasn't like as bad. I guess I've heard horror stories from other women, and I couldn't sympathize because I didn't understand. Um,
Mhm.
but it's not normal for your body to have that kind of response.
Yeah. If you think that if the church did, you said you had some varying different, comments from clergy on, like, what's the stance on this? Say there was a unified stance that, no, none of this is, approved. Just say that was the stance because, it's all in God's hand, yada, yada, Sunday school answer. Do you think that would be okay in, like, today's society? Like, could the women in our community at least, like, uh accept that, and is that so foreign? Like, if you told, like, your non-Coptic friend that, would they be like, oh my god, what?
I think, I and it
Because
wasn't
like there's a big like my body, my choice, right? Like now we have men, the patriarchy, like clergy telling me like
yeah,
what to do, and
men telling women what to do.
yeah, it's like what?
Yeah. Here's how I see it. Like, there are lots of things that the church says are blanket no's. Like, no to certain things, right? And I still think some people take that as an open interpretation. The church, when they say no, it's not a suggestion. It's a law. It's what they believe is also another step into the kingdom. Whatever,
Mhm.
right? If they told me absolutely no, I would never take it. That's how I am.
Mm,
I would much rather learn how to protect myself naturally, and that's through many ways, right? It's learning your cycle, learning your body, basal temperature if you're into that stuff, abstinence. It's like whatever, like understanding the way that your body's rhythm is super important. Some women don't want that. And I'm
mm,
not going to condemn a woman who hears the no and still wants to do it her own way because, again, I'm not in the space of condemning what others do. But there is, if the church says to do something, it's our like opportunity as Christians to take that with a whole heart and understand that the no has meaning, and it's not just a no to be like patriarchal and like chauvinistic and like, oh, these priests are all men and they hate on women and they just want to, like, no. Like, these are our church fathers. Like, some of them,
right.
I'm not going to talk about their intentions, but that's, every region's different, every church is different. Like, take it with a grain of salt if you wish. Um, but at the same time, like, if I were to talk to a non-Coptic friend
Yeah.
about it, I don't think they'd really bat an eye because they're like, "Oh, Catholicism is like that. Oh, Muslims are like that." So it's like they know that
Yeah.
generally religion plays a huge role in birth control and how women should
Hmm.
be taking care of themselves.
Yeah, I think Catholics really are, I feel like, a lot stricter than us on
Way stricter.
on abortion, definitely,
Yeah.
and then on birth control. Like
Yeah.
any devout Catholic has like 7 kids. Like
7 kids, has basal
yeah,
body temperature every single day,
yeah,
to track their cycle. Like,
yeah.
it's
And and I think now that I'm just thinking about it, like it's probably pretty obvious the fact that like your modern Coptic household is like 2 kids, that they're it's probably common, unless
yeah, I
uh,
mean,
they're having zero sex, which is possible, but hopefully
exactly.
not.
Hopefully not.
Um, um, okay, so as you were talking and the patriarchy and all that, it reminded me of that show, The Handmaid's Tale. I think that's what it's called.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, which is like
Mhm.
I think I tried watching it. I was just like I couldn't, just because it was like it was too much for me. But
I get it.
um, that's a really popular show, and it kind of hits on a lot of these points. And this is a whole can of worms, and it could be like a topic in and of itself for like a whole nother day. But what is the role of women? Let's just starting off with like a dialogue on things like this. Is it just to ask the question and tell me what to do? Uh, like on this topic, but in anything, right? Is that like what the Bible teaches? Like St. Paul, I don't know if it's him who says, if you have a question, go to your husband at home and ask him. And if he doesn't know, maybe Kalbun, I don't know. But
Yeah.
what's the role of women in the discussion, just in general, on this topic, but in any topic? Like, is it just to ask and receive information?
I don't think so. I remember I watched, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know if you ever watched that movie.
Classic, yeah.
Classic. And the mom on the girl's wedding day was like, was it Tula? Tula's the bride. She was like, the man is the head of the house, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn it any way that she wants. Like, I thought that was hysterical and quite empowering.
Yeah.
But you realize in what she said that you have to have the head and the neck.
Mm.
It's not that one is better than the other. It's that the head needs the neck and the neck needs the head for support.
Mhm.
So it's like people totally overshot that. We're like, oh yeah, the neck is better than the head because it can turn the head any way it wants. But then it's like, well, the head is what balances the rest of the body. You need the head to function. You don't live
Right. Right.
without
Right.
the head, right? So I think you can see the role of men and women in that regard, where it's like God created Adam, or when he created Eve, he was like, nah, she needs, or no, he created Adam first. Sorry,
Yeah, I'm rewriting the whole
I
history of
know.
the church.
No, sorry,
He
sorry,
created
sorry.
Eve first.
I'm
Went in
nervous.
a whole different direction.
I'm nervous. I'm so sorry. No, he created Adam first, and he was like, no, you can't exist without her,
Uh-huh.
and you guys are both going to complement each other.
Yeah.
But if you talk to a feminist now, like a modern feminist, which I hate to admit, I used to be that raging modern feminist, and I'm horrified by the way that I used to speak. I'll be the first to admit it. But a modern feminist would say, like, she would negate anything that a man does and just focuses on herself.
Yeah.
And she focuses on herself in a way it's like, all right, he's gonna make this kind of money, bet I'm gonna top it. Or like, oh, he's getting this kind of respect in the community, bet I'm gonna top it.
Yeah.
Oh, he can do whatever it is. Like the list will go on and on and on. Oh, he can deadlift 500 pounds, bet I'm gonna try to. Physiology is a beautiful thing, and it forces men and women to act differently based on our own physiology, which again, people don't understand. So I think when we're talking about the church, Saint Mary is the most underrated saint in our church, 110%.
Mhm.
She's underrated in a way because she is the actual mirror of femininity that we need to obtain. She is the feminist. She is the woman. She is everything that we need to be in every way, shape, and form.
Wow.
She accepted God. She submitted to him. She never questioned who he is, what he did for her. She never questioned her ability to do anything. But for some reason, a woman in the church nowadays is like, I cannot submit to my husband. Bet he's not going to do that. I will never bow down and kiss his feet. Like, we're not telling you to go kiss his feet and wash his feet. We're telling you to respect him because he was anointed to do certain things by the Holy Spirit that you will never be able to do as a woman, and that's okay. Because on
Yeah.
the other end of it, he will never have the maternal instinct that you will have. He will never have your nurturing ability like you have, and all of that stemmed from Saint Mary.
Yeah.
And what is wrong with that? You know what I mean? It's so sad that nowadays being a woman of the church suddenly has the stigma of like, you're only a homemaker, you can't bring in any sort of income or anything like that. It downgrades the man's role, and suddenly they've coined a beautiful term called toxic masculinity, where it's like there's nothing wrong with masculinity and it's not
Mhm.
toxic. You just want to say it's toxic, and there could be men out there, and there are men like this that just are insecure and want to like overbear their manliness, whatever. That definitely exists.
Yeah.
But we're not focused on those men.
Mhm.
But masculinity in itself is not toxic. It's something to actually celebrate and to allow men to be masculine. We use toxic masculinity as a way to just put down a man and his ability naturally and have him be more little.
Yeah.
And that's unfair.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and it would be nice to see us, the sexes raising each other up as opposed to kind of we don't have to belittle the other sex and what it has to offer because it is a compliment. And when a woman tries to belittle a man to project herself or vice versa, um, then we're not working in harmony like the way God intended it to. That was really nice. I never heard that about Saint Mary, like
He's so
as the
underrated.
focus of femininity. Like I've never thought
Yeah.
about that. I'm curious, how did you like overcome your like raging feminist phase? Like how did you pass through that?
I got close to the church, and
Mm,
I found a spiritual father that honestly, I didn't think I would ever get close to him. He sought me out. And he was just like, no, there's something about her. I want to get to know her, whatever. And I've always been someone like that believed in God, believed in the church, but I just never knew my place in the church, and I never knew what my purpose was. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't say I overcame anything because I think I'm still struggling with what I thought was truth. And now I have to debunk all of those things, especially, now that we're trying to plan for a family and like, kids are going to be part of the mix and things like that. But I guess you could say I have changed in a way where I realize now how harmful modern feminism is in in the wake of the devil. It is 100% demonic and satanic in every way, shape, and form. There, it's removing women from God. It's removing women from the Holy Spirit. It's forcing women to see individualism, to see self-love in a different way, to accept that, oh, God made me this way, so God gave me certain strengths that I can build. And it's like it's no longer being authentically a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I actually had a family member say this, and they were just like, God, I would hate to be a woman because I'd hate to menstruate. Like literally someone in my family said that.
Mm.
And I was just like, I don't see what's wrong with that.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're putting down a woman for something that is natural.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like it really got me thinking that, like, let me use my spiritual father as an example. I went to him for everything. I was like, listen, I'm a feminist, I'm pro-choice, I'm all this kind of stuff. Like, prove me wrong. And I'm
Mm.
always someone that's open. I'm open to someone telling me if I'm genuinely wrong because my objective is always going to be to enter the kingdom.
Yeah.
So I will want to know what it is that I'm doing wrong. And that's just me, right? I don't know about anybody else. So the conversations have always just stemmed from what is truth and what is the devil. And if the devil's trying to steer me away from the truth, I have to just let go and trust that God is the way and the life. And that's a hard, hard thing to do. Like there are some people that I was like really close to when I was a raging modern secular feminist, and I don't talk to them like at
Mm.
all. So I did lose friends along the way, and it sucked and it hurt and it made me feel like, oh wow, I have nobody. But I've also gained a lot more because now I'm a servant, and I'm helping younger women that I see myself in completely, and like helping them understand that, like, I mean, what you're thinking is wrong. And like I'm not saying
Mm.
you're not going to go to the kingdom, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like, let's try to work through this and understand where this is coming from,
Yeah.
right? So
It's also understanding that there's spectrums to femininity and masculinity, right? It's not, there's no one mold for it, just as we talked about like self-love. Like you don't have to feel like I'm not feminine because you don't like wearing skirts and like
sure.
whatever, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not what femininity is. Could be a part of it, but it's understanding like there's gradations to all of this stuff. Um, but yeah, I really liked what you said, and I think let's end on that note. Like you sought truth, and that's
Mhm.
really why I sought you and having this conversation, because that's what I really admired about you, is that you like to like just have real conversations, and you're okay with being challenged, and you just want to come to whatever the conclusion is, or as close to it as possible that is the truth. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And if someone comes for you and is just like she's saying everything wrong, then I'm willing to learn if they reach out. That's all.
For sure.